Yes, they do. A lot of time for Prescott. Gonna launch it.
Deep ball, separation, touchdown, George Pickens.
If I see 14 matched up one-on-one, he gets the football.
This is the star we are.
Prescott to Pickens. Boy, that is music to my ears and soon to be music to every household couch potato football watching ear around America. Prescott to Pickens, get used to it. Let's get right into it. George Pickens is mad, they say. George Pickens is a diva, they say. He struggles with attitude, they say. I say he struggles with quarterback play. Poet and didn't know it. Pickens has never had a Prescott. That's true. With lack quarterback play from Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, I'm not sure who else, Kenny Pickett, I believe. He's lacked in quarterback play. So yes, it is very true that George Pickens has not had a Dak Prescott. But I'll be the first Cowboys fan to tell you that Dak Prescott has never had a George Pickens. The closest thing we've seen to it was maybe a tail end of Des Bryant's career. Amari Cooper wasn't George Pickens. CeeDee Lamb isn't George Pickens. They're each in their own category, but George Pickens is a freak athlete. George Pickens is a give me the ball, any situation, anytime, I can catch it over anyone in the league athlete. He is that. That's what he gives Dak Prescott. So while everyone was quick to say, man, George Pickens, he ain't never had somebody like Dak throw to him, Dak has never thrown the ball to anybody like George Pickens. And not only will I stand on that hill if I've got to do it alone, Dak Prescott has never thrown to anyone like George Pickens, and Dak Prescott has also never had a top 5 weapon core. What do you mean by that? So the best weapon core that I believe Dak Prescott ever had was a healthy Ezekiel Elliott, an end-of-career Des Bryant, a Jason Witten, right? You can argue maybe Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb in the slot. Well, he's had some big threes. Has he ever had a dominant number 1 George Pickens, a dominant number 1 CeeDee Lamb, a running back room filled with talent starting with Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, a Jake Ferguson tight end, a super balanced offense, a top 5 weapon core is what he has now. And that means a lot. That makes you balanced. That means you can do a lot of things. So what are some of those things? Some of those things are the separate routes that Pickens and Lamb can run, and we'll get right into those stats. Did you know that the Pittsburgh Steelers asked George Pickens to run deep balls, go routes, and fade routes 20% of the time last season? Well, it was 19, but I don't like to leave the little one sitting out there, so I'm going to call it 20% of the time last season. Fade routes, deep fades, and go routes. 20% of the time. Now, I don't know if Dak Prescott's going to ask him to do that. I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys are going to ask him to do that. But if they do you understand what that means for the inside of the field? We'll get to that in a minute. Not only that, he's averaged 1,000 yards over the last 2 years. And since his rookie year, he's went from a get open score on a scale of 0 to 100 from a 48 to a 70. 70 being one of the top 10 last year in get open scores. So let's not talk about the kid's progression and him moving to a quarterback that's now, I don't want to shade the other guys, but Dak Prescott's just better. We'll put it that way. Now let's make our way to Mr. Cedarian Lamb. Okay, did you know that the Cowboys asked Cedarian Lamb to catch 25% of their target share last year? Well, it was, again, 24, but I don't like to leave that little one hanging out there. Do you know what that does for a defense? When they know the ball in passing situation goes to CeeDee Lamb 1/4 of the time? That goes away. So with the addition of George Pickens and the fact that CeeDee Lamb was getting double coverage and bracketed all last year, when facing man coverage, when he finally got the opportunity to line up against one guy, did you know that CeeDee Lamb leads the league in that position against man? He did it last year. So call me crazy, but what do you think that does for the middle of the field? When you got a guy who can just absolutely beat man at some of the best rates in the league, and you've got a guy who runs the 9 and the deep route over and over and over, the fades, and catches them on you at a high clip, what do you do in the middle of the field with a Jake Ferguson, a Trayshawn Holden, a Jalen Tolbert, a Kevontae Turpin? How do you control the speed and how do you contain the seam route that Dak Prescott throws seamlessly, effortlessly? What do you do? And that's where we get into opening the field, right? That's where we get into some of the X's and O's. And you can see the different situations. Last year we got piled with safety, 1 high safeties, 8 in the box, just man up. We'll just play man. We'll just man up. They've got nothing but CeeDee Lamb to beat us. Half the year we got Cooper Rush throwing it to him. We saw that look so much last year. that disappears. When you have George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, you cannot just run one high safeties all game. Ask a defensive coordinator. I'm not wrong, okay? If you're not sure about ball, you have to just trust Jimmy on this one. So what does that do? That opens things up. That makes Jake Ferguson's seam route becomes dangerous. That makes Kavontae Turman coming out of the backfield or out of the slot very, very speedy and dangerous. You can't put linebackers or safeties on him because then George Pickens or CeeDee is manned up, and they will just beat you manned up. So the 9 route becomes elite. Run the 9. And when you run the 9, and here comes the music to my ears part, Pickens from Prescott, Prescott to Pickens on the 9. When that hits at any point in the ball game, you run the 9, you get to run the ball. And with these coaches and this offensive line and these running backs, listen, it's starting to get to the point where you could just throw running backs back there. But I believe we got some good ones. But with these wide receivers, Dak Prescott at the helm, this offensive line, and the dangerous, balanced threat that we pose by running the 9, get ready, NFL. Your man Jimmy J signing out. How about them Cowboys? It's Jimmy J's hair here. If you love that content and you want to grab yourself some more, click on either one of these videos. And remember to like, subscribe, and always, always, always fan responsibly.